I do.
Lawyer up.
If you'd come to the housewarming, you would have known. You would have met him.
I'm sick. Listen, so that's that. There's one last thing I wanted to kind of scrape both of your brains on if you had a chance to look over it, and it's this quote unquote crowdsourcing campaign that the Brewers Association is doing. Let me get into it first. I'll kind of give you guys a gist if you haven't heard much from it. As of Monday, again, big news week. The Brewers Association launched this social media campaign called TakeCraftBack. And I say a social media campaign, they're calling it a crowdfunding campaign because what they're trying to do is essentially raise $213 billion through crowdfunding. With a B.
Yeah, that's a big B.
To buy Anheuser-Busch, a.k.a. AB InBev. That is their current market value is $213 billion. Looking more into it, they keep stressing that it is a crowdsourced crowdfunding project, but it's not technically real. You can go on the site.
No kidding.
Right. You can go on the site. You can watch the funny video, which they call funny. I beg
you
to
call
differ.
a video.
They call a video. So you can go on the website and pledge. And when you click on pledge, you can say, I can pledge between $10 and $1,000. They don't take your credit card info. They're asking you to just say, hey, I'll pledge this, whatever. You put your email in. They'll even send you free stuff like a sticker, a T-shirt, hat, whatever. If the time ever comes where these fake pledges add up to $213 billion, you'll get an email from them saying, hey, remember that time you
were drunk and you said you'd give us $1,000
to hit up, but it says right here, literally, it says, there's a checkbox down here that says, I agree that we'll be in touch if somehow miraculously, against every odd, the $213 billion crowdfunding goal is reached. And in parentheses, we don't expect to be in touch. No credit card needed. We trust you're 21 or over. So again, it's kind of tongue in cheek. It's something I definitely didn't expect to see from the Brewers Association. Obviously, they want to be taken seriously. They've been fighting a lot of stuff from not necessarily buyouts, but from the weird commercials, the weird like cannon fire from AB InBev on like Super Bowl commercials, things like that. So I get that kind of like that volley back. Like here's this little fun thing. This might be a little too far for my liking because like there's a lot going on here, and I don't take them as seriously as I hope, or as I think
they want you to.
They want to,
yeah.
But I want to know if you guys had read any into this and what your thoughts are on this.
It's an interesting, funny thing to do. I mean, but why not be? If you're going to do it, be serious about it. Like it just doesn't make any sense to me that they would take this flippant. Not that that's ever going to happen, but
right.
to bring a tad bit of politicalness to this. Somebody tried to crowdfund buying Twitter to ban Donald Trump like recently. And that's just ridiculous. Like crowdfunding has become this way now. If I don't have any money, I'm gonna go do something with myself, and that's not really how this works.
Right.
And so either do it or don't. It doesn't ring funny to me.
Carla, thoughts?
Yeah, I really didn't know what to think of this when this first came out. Like I understood that it wasn't, we were never gonna, raise $200 whatever billion. Like I got that. To me, I was kind of amused at the fact that this is almost also, like, as a side effect, making fun of crowdfunding a lot. Like,
yeah.
So it's that whole, like, oh, we have a great idea. We have a funny video. We have a thing. And it's like, wait, that's the way a lot of breweries have gotten their money. So it's a little bit like a little backhanded, like, oh, crowdfunding isn't real.
It's true.
But just, but that aside, like, I just kind of looked at it and I was like, ooh, anybody who's going to do a serious crowdfunding thing in the next, a couple months is a little, screwed there. But what I think I'm worried about, I understand completely the independent craft seal. I get that. I understand why they did that. I understand why that's a visible thing and why that's a good marketing thing for them. What I don't understand is
$1,000 pledge. Sorry.
It's kind of like, I don't get this angle. If
Okay.
you're going to say, we're proud of being independent, we're proud of, not being owned by whatever. This is very odd.
Right.
It's like we want to take back everybody who made that decision is odd. I would rather they be doing things like that independent seal where they're celebrating the fact that they are independent than kind of attacking the ones that aren't independent. And maybe that's just me being like, an optimist or a happy-go-lucky or, rose-colored glasses kind of person. But I don't know how to talk to people about this. This is a weird thing.
Sorry, train break.
No, it's all good.
I mean,
You're familiar.
I have to take a little bit of a stance against the independent craft seal. I don't like that the organization has chosen to redefine craft several times very recently.
That's a whole different issue.
Just
totally right. That's
it stands for a definition that has just changed to suit their usage. And I know I threw a dig at the Brewers Association for not being the Brewers Association. They're what they've chosen to call Craft Brewers Association. And one of the things that they call, in the definition is traditional. And I don't know, it's kind of hard to call AB, or Anheuser-Busch not traditional. I mean, they've been brewing beer since, the 1800s or something like that. So, and I'm not defending big beer. I know I might sound like I defend big beer sometimes, but this whole thing, between all this fighting, I think they just need to find a way to let their product stand on its own. Let the people vote with their dollar. And yes, craft, I'm using my air quotes here, has struggled in the last year like they hadn't before, right? Perhaps. And so maybe that's tough. And I know that AB InBev doesn't make it easy for them. But when was the last time you went into a small local brewery that wasn't packed full of people spending a lot of their hard money, and just let your product do its thing?
Yep.
And beat them in the marketplace, and you'll win every time.
And speaking of a lot of hard-earned money, it's like do there are dues to be in the Brewers Association? I imagine. I'm not a brewer.
I'm sure there is.
But
I mean, you pay to be in the Home Brewers Association.
This campaign probably costs a number of dollars. So are breweries going to take a second look and be like, okay, is this what our investment in being this independent craft brewer, is this what this money is going to? Obviously, social media and marketing is one thing, but this is kind of obviously you can't choose how your dollars are being spent with things that you donate to, but sometimes like this, it's kind of interesting. There was one response from a big brewer. I don't know if you've heard of him, Miller Coors. Thoughts? Heard of him?
I think I heard of him once.
Carla, Miller Coors. Anyway,
I'm kind of familiar. I'll have to check my Untappd to see if I've had anything.
I like this quote. Pete Marino, president of Miller Coors Craft Division, 10th and Blake, says, if the number of inbound calls that we are getting is any indication, more and more independent craft brewers are open to the idea, or at very least exploring their options to partner with a large brewer or financial partner. Further, he adds, maybe the BA should start by buying a few craft companies and see what kind of interest they get. It's pretty good. We were talking earlier about Geary's, that it necessarily didn't sell to a larger brewery, sold to financial, investors and all that. But I mean, it's a thing. I mean, if they're actually getting these calls, which they could be.
Yeah,
we're always in the assumption. We're always in the assumption that the brewers are being bought by AB InBev. We don't stop to think: are these brewers contacting them and then starting? Are they the ones starting the discussion? They could be.
New Belgium admits they hired a firm to help shop them a few years back. I mean,
true. Okay.
You're right. You've got to look at some of these companies, especially the still founder owned. A lot of the people who started in the '80s, where the founders are old and maybe don't have kids, or the kids have chosen not to enter the family business because maybe the kids couldn't.
Issues of passing that down.
And what are you going to do? Like, do you want to go down as the guy that let his brewery fail, or girl who let their brewery fail because they didn't have proper succession planning? We're in that phase of the industry where that kind of stuff has to be thought about. And I don't know about you guys, if I was Tony at Lagunitas and somebody said, "Hey, here's $500 million for half," I don't know if I could say no. Like I don't know if I could. Right. Like I really, like, principles aside, like that's a lot of money. That's more money than the 1% of the 1% will ever see in their lives. How do you say no to that? I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. What about? I mean, and I think what the other problem here is that this is targeting a problem that has a solution other than buying it to make it go away, right? Like what we really don't like collectively about AB InBev is that their business practices suck, right? They are doing shit that is not cool. They're kind of, overreaching. They're doing this pay to play stuff. They're doing that type of thing. That being said, recently we've had a lot of breweries, get stakes of, in other places that are coming from breweries that aren't a problem, like a Heineken and Lagunitas. What did Heineken ever do to anybody?
Right.
The people who own, part of Omegang, what did Duvel ever do to anybody? So it's kind of I think we're lumping breweries that have been bought by people into this evil land, and we're going after AB InBevs, but it blurs that line. Like it makes it feel like everything that's ever been bought up.
So is this
bad.
So is this their intention to start this kind of conversation, or do you think this is going to work against them, or it's very real possibility us being beer podcasters? Are we overthinking this?
Oh, we're totally
all the above.
Okay, gotcha.
All the above.
I
I'll
want to
take all
know,
the above.
like countdown until they sue for like libel or something.
So,
Like,
well, I'm glad you mentioned that because, and you mentioned they had a Twitter campaign, or they buy Donald Trump or whatever.
They buy Twitter to throw him off.
Yeah, luckily, the Reddit is a great place, obviously, and the beer Reddit brought up this little article about the SEC canning the internet campaign to buy Pabst, which was back in 20-something. So this is obviously what AB InBev is, or what Brewers Association is doing is tongue in cheek. There was a real campaign to buy Pabst, and the SEC shut it down. So obviously there's that.
With what grounds did they shut it down? That feels to me like were they actively trying to buy it with the money they raised, or they stopped the raising of the money? It sounds like a First Amendment.
They
kind of
neglected
thing
to register the public offering with the SEC.
Oh, okay. So they
I
did
guess
try
they
to
could've,
actually do it. I see.
And we obviously the overarching thing is, sure, AB InBev is quote unquote worth $213 billion. Doesn't mean they're gonna. No. Doesn't mean once they raise it, it's like, here you go, sir. Here's our $213 billion, and
I
sell to us.
I don't know. I've never been a huge fan of some of this, crowdfunding stuff in general. I know we've talked about it before. Like some, breweries certainly use it for things. I know, like Tributary used it to raise money for their delivery van.
Yeah.
But then you've got breweries that use it to raise money for the actual brewery, and it's like, if you don't have a solid enough business plan that you can go to a bank in today's climate, where did Lone Pine get their money? I guarantee you they got a nice solid business plan and went to a bank. If you don't have the ability to do that, because I feel like banks right now throw money at least any respectable craft brewer, why am I giving you money?
There's a problem with what you're saying, and that is not a lot of people think like that, and us, where I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of complaints about breweries that look too nice and have a lot of money, and my response to them is like, what do you want?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like,
be dirty and crappy. Like, come on.
Beer and business, like, yes, they go together well, but they need to be separate. I think it was 2 years ago's craft beer conference where I think it was some guy from I think it was Stone Brewery said, obviously you need to have you have to have someone that knows how to brew beer. But you need the business side too. So obviously, there's definitely a good medium between a brewery that looks way too nice and sucks at bad beer, but yes, the brewery needs money, and brewers don't necessarily have money. They're looking to obviously make some with their beer.
Yeah, and it's not exactly a glamorous job in a lot of cases. It pays really well. You don't see a lot of guys who were mid-level brewers or any kind of brewers at a brewery suddenly opening anything great.
And
they need their name behind
it shouldn't matter where the money's coming from either. I mean, to some extent. Hang on.
Well, to be a member of the Brewers Association, it does matter where the money's coming from.
So an investor, say a guy that has $1 billion investing in a brewery, how is that different than a bank?
Oh, and I'm not saying it's bad to borrow money.
No, I know. No, that's what I'm saying too.
Yeah,
right.
I'm
with you.
But that's why, like, I remember the first brewery that I can remember that really like hit me is, while they obviously are well funded, I think was Some Brewing in Maine.
Interesting,
because it was like, oh, everything's new and it's clean and they're not in a warehouse. I feel like we reached a point where brewing and owning a brewery, and I'm going to use this phrase, and it's going to be wrong, but
Show titles. Go ahead.
It became respectable enough that you could walk into a bank and borrow money. You know, do you think that 25 years ago that, and I'm sure obviously like, you know, Peter Eggleston had to borrow some money, I'm sure at some point.
Yeah.
But do you think it was, you know, do you think he walked in and said, "Hi, I'm from a brewery," and they didn't immediately think, "Well, we're not going to give this guy money." Whereas nowadays, I feel like if you can do anything right, you know, brew wise, if you can make one big beer, look at what, you know, the Alchemist. I'm sure, you know, when John Kimmich goes to a bank, they just like, "How much today?" You know, like there's not even a question.
Exactly.
Like, how much do you need right now? Because it's a good investment right now for some of those guys, and so I think that it's the industry has changed. The industry is maturing. It's evolving. I think banks and other investment you know, companies know how to value it. They know how to understand the business. There's enough history there, and I think that makes it easy for money to be got, because there's no way that some of these breweries would be starting up at the level they're doing, or even look at Lone Pine 16 months in. There's no way 10, 15 years ago they would have got the money they needed to do to buy that place.
Final thoughts go to Carla. Up here.
Final thoughts go to me. So, you know, I think that we're going to see a lot changing in the landscape of how breweries do their thing and how breweries get their money. You are totally correct that there is stuff that has been changing. You know, if you had asked, you know, in 2005, "Hey, I need, you know, $100,000 to open a new brewery," there's no way a bank would give it to you. Now, you know, there was a Kickstarter for Banded Horn a couple of years ago, and the town like begged them to come in, like, "We want you to put our brewery here."
Yeah.
So there's so much going on that's changing and evolving, but there's also more models and more ways people are funding and getting together to make breweries. So, you know, we don't have to put a value judgment on all of it. We have to kind of see what happens, and kind of let the beer be the judge, let the business model be the what we judge people on, and then figure out how we can fight some of the crappy things that the bigger breweries are doing. I'd rather fight the things. Maybe there's some legislation that could prevent them from being so powerful, or could prevent them from being so crappy. Like, I'd rather focus my energy on that than punishing the people who wanted to get bigger and found a partner to do it.
If anything, this will cause the people that like these clickbait articles to then kind of dig more deeper into the Brewer Association, find out what they're about, and kind of get into those issues that you're talking about and learning more about it. It might, in this weird ass internet age, it might take something like this to bring people that aren't as like in the beer scene as us kind of take a look at it. I don't know. God, I so want to, like, we've talked about it a lot. Like, I want to know what other hobbies are doing right now. Like, what is wine having the same goddamn podcast as we are?
I don't know. You know what? I think we got to find one.
Well, besides current events.
You know what? I'm gonna put this in really quick. There is going to be a conference this March called Bevfluence, which is beer, wine, and cocktails all together. It's like the Beer Bloggers Conference, not run by the same people in Virginia. Y'all should come.
Oh, Virginia! Yes.
I will send you information.
Send me info.